There is a plant growing in your yard right now, probably within 20 feet of where you are sitting, that the old folks in this county once trusted more than any medicine the doctor in town could offer. And this weekend you are probably going to pull it up, spray it, or mow it down without a second thought. I want you to understand what I am telling you. The weeds you fight every summer, the ones you curse at, the ones you spend money on chemicals to kill, were for hundreds of years the medicine cabinet of every farmhouse in Lancaster County. My grandmother did not drive to a pharmacy. She walked out to the edge of the garden, to the cracks in the path, to the damp corner by the fence, and she gathered what most people today rip out and throw in the burn pile. She raised 7 children to adulthood, through fevers and infections and wounds and stomach sickness, in a time before antibiotics were something a family could count on. And she did it with plants that are, at this very moment, growing wild and free in your backyard. I am going to show you 10 of them, and I am going to be honest with you the whole way through, including the one on this list that can hurt you if you get it wrong. So stay to the end, because the 10th one is the most powerful of them all, and it is also the one you have to respect the most. My name is Caleb Zook. I am Amish, and I farm in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania. Let me show you what you have been killing. One honest word before we begin, because I will not mislead you. When I say these weeds are stronger than antibiotics, I do not mean you should throw away medicine your doctor has given you. I am not a doctor, and I will never pretend to be one. What I mean is what the old folks meant, that these plants were the first line of defense for generations of families, that they genuinely work for what they work for, and that modern research has now studied many of them and confirmed what our grandmothers knew by hand and by heart. These are not folk tales. The science has caught up, and the plants are free, growing in the ground you walk over every day. Let us go through them. Number 1. Plantain. Not the banana. I mean the broadleaf weed with the ribbed oval leaves that grows flat against the ground in your lawn, in your driveway cracks, in the hard-packed dirt along every path. You have stepped on it 10,000 times. You have pulled it out of your garden beds in frustration. The old folks called it the bandage plant, and for good reason. Plantain leaf is one of the most powerful drawing poultices in nature. When my brother was stung by a wasp as a boy, my mother did not reach for a tube of cream. She picked a plantain leaf, crushed it between her fingers until the juice came out, and pressed it onto the sting. The swelling went down within the hour. Plantain pulls. It draws out venom, splinters, infection, and the poison from insect bites and stings. Research has confirmed it contains compounds with genuine anti-inflammatory and antimicrobial activity, and that it speeds wound healing measurably. A crushed plantain leaf on a cut, a sting, a splinter you cannot get out. That is one of the oldest and most reliable remedies in this county, and it grows in the worst, most trampled soil you have. You cannot kill it, so stop trying and start using it. Number 2. Dandelion. The weed every homeowner in America spends money trying to destroy. The bright yellow flower that turns to a puff of seed and spreads across the lawn no matter what you do. The old folks did not fight the dandelion. They harvested it, root and leaf and flower, because every single part of it is useful. The leaves are one of the most nutrient-dense greens that exist, higher in vitamin A than carrots, rich in vitamin K, calcium, and iron. But the real medicine is in the root. Dandelion root is one of the most studied natural supports for the liver in all of herbal medicine. It stimulates bile flow, supports the body's natural detoxification, and acts as a gentle diuretic that helps the body clear excess fluid. My father dug dandelion roots every fall, dried them, and roasted them into a coffee-like drink he took all winter for his digestion and his liver. You are mowing down a free pharmacy every Saturday. The dandelion is not your enemy. It never was. Number 3. Chickweed. The low, sprawling, tender little green that takes over cool, damp corners of the garden in spring and fall. Most people yank it out by the handful and never think twice. The old folks gathered it by the basket. Chickweed is cooling and soothing, both inside and out. Made into a save or a poultice, it calms itchy skin, eczema, rashes, and minor burns better than many store-bought creams. Eaten fresh in a salad, it is gentle on an inflamed, irritated digestive tract and is rich in vitamins and minerals. Esther, my wife, keeps a jar of chickweed salve in the kitchen for the children's scrapes and rashes all year. It costs nothing. The plant practically grows itself, and the more you cut it, the more it comes back. Number 4. Purslane. This is the low, fleshy, succulent weed with the small paddle-shaped leaves that creeps across your garden beds and the cracks in your patio in the heat of summer. Most gardeners treat it as a nuisance. They have no idea what they are throwing away. Purslane contains more omega-3 fatty acids than any other leafy plant on earth. Let that settle for a moment. The same omega-3 fats that people pay good money for in fish oil capsules are sitting in a weed you are pulling out of your tomato bed and composting. On top of that, purslane is loaded with antioxidants, vitamin C, magnesium, and potassium. The old folks ate it fresh, cooked it like spinach, and pickled it for winter. It is crisp, slightly tart, and genuinely good. You have been weeding out one of the most nutritious plants in your whole garden. Number 5. Yarrow. The feathery leafed plant with flat clusters of small white flowers that grows along field edges and in untended corners. This one has a long and serious history. The old soldiers carried it into battle to stop bleeding. It was called soldier's woundwort for a reason. Yarrow is one of the most effective natural styptics that exists. Pressed onto a bleeding cut, the crushed leaf slows and stops the bleeding remarkably fast. Research has confirmed yarrow's ability to promote clotting and reduce inflammation. But it does more than that. Yarrow tea, taken at the first sign of a fever, is one of the oldest remedies for breaking that fever by encouraging the body to sweat it out. My grandmother kept dried yarrow on the shelf year-round, and at the first chill and ache of a coming fever, that is what went into the pot. Number 6. Cleavers. You know this one even if you do not know its name. It is the sticky, clinging weed, the one that grabs onto your clothes and your dog's fur with tiny hooks as you walk past it. Children call it the sticky weed. Most people tear it out and brush it off in annoyance. The old folks valued cleavers as one of the finest spring tonics for the lymphatic system, the part of the body that drains waste and supports the immune system. Cleavers gently encourages that system to move and clear itself, which is why it was taken every spring to wash the winter out of the body. It was also used for swollen glands and as a soothing support for the urinary tract. Steeped fresh in cool water overnight and drunk in the morning, it is one of the gentlest and most traditional tonics in this whole county. Number 7. Lamb's quarters. The tall, dusty green weed with the slightly powdery-looking leaves that springs up in disturbed soil and garden edges all summer. Farmers have fought it in their fields for generations. They also quietly ate it at their own tables. Lamb's quarters is sometimes called wild spinach, and it deserves the name. It is more nutritious than the spinach you buy at the store, higher in protein, calcium, iron, and vitamins A and C. The old folks cooked it exactly as they cooked garden spinach, and it fed families through the lean months when little else was growing. It is one of the most abundant, most overlooked free foods in any backyard in this country. You are pulling food out of the ground and throwing it away. Number 8. Red clover. The common clover with the rounded pink-purple flower heads that fills lawns and pastures and field edges everywhere. The bees love it. The old folks loved it too, and not just for the bees. Red clover blossoms were one of the most trusted blood-cleansing tonics in traditional medicine, taken as a tea through spring and summer. Modern research has taken a serious interest in red clover for its content of natural plant compounds called isoflavones, which have been studied for supporting women's health, particularly through the changes of later life. The flowers also make a gentle, soothing tea that calms a tight, irritated chest and cough. My mother gathered red clover blossoms on dry summer mornings, dried them carefully out of the sun, and we drank that tea all winter long. Number 9. Mullein. The tall, striking plant with the soft, fuzzy, gray-green leaves that grows up in a single stalk along roadsides and in waste ground, often as tall as a man, with a spike of yellow flowers at the top. Once you have noticed it, you will see it everywhere, and nearly everyone walks right past it. Mullein is the single most respected lung plant in the old herbal tradition. For coughs, for tight chests, for congestion, for the deep rattling cough that hangs on for weeks after a cold, mullein leaf tea was the first thing the old folks reached for. The soft leaves, steeped and strained well through a cloth, soothe and open the airways. Research has confirmed mullein's anti-inflammatory and soothing action on the respiratory tract. When the winter cough went through our house, mullein tea with raw honey is what carried us through it. It grows wild, free, tall, and abundant, and almost no one knows what it is. One small note: strain mullein tea through a fine cloth to catch the tiny hairs on the leaf, which can irritate the throat. 3 seconds of care, and you have a remedy our grandmothers swore by. Number 10. Stinging nettle. I saved this one for last for 2 reasons. It is the most powerful on the entire list, and it is the one you have to respect the most. You know nettle the moment you brush against it bare-skinned, because it stings, sharp and burning, and the welt lasts for an hour. That sting is exactly why most people destroy it on sight. And that is exactly the mistake, because the moment you dry nettle or cook it, the sting vanishes completely, and what is left is one of the most nutrient-dense and medicinally powerful plants that grows anywhere on this earth. Nettle contains more iron than spinach, more calcium than milk by weight, and significant levels of vitamins A, C, and K. But its real fame is for the joints. Research has specifically studied nettle for arthritis and found meaningful reduction in joint pain and inflammation, results that patients in those studies compared favorably to anti-inflammatory drugs, without the harm those drugs do to the stomach over time. My father drank nettle tea every spring of his life. He called it his blood tonic. He worked his fields until he was 74 years old, and I have always believed the nettle had something to do with it. Here is the respect part and the honest warning. Wear gloves to harvest it, always, no exceptions, because that sting is real. And as with every strong plant, moderation matters. This is medicine, not a beverage to drink by the gallon. The old folks took it as a seasonal tonic, with respect, and so should you. That is the 10th, the strongest, and the one that demands you handle it with care. Now let me pull all 10 of these together, because I want you to see what is really sitting in your backyard. Plantain that draws out infection and venom. Dandelion that supports the liver. Chickweed that soothes the skin. Purslane packed with the omega-3 fats people buy in capsules. Yarrow that stops bleeding and breaks a fever. Cleavers that cleanses the lymph. Lamb's quarters that outnourishes store-bought spinach. Red clover that cleans the blood and calms a cough. Mullein, the great lung plant. And nettle, the most powerful of them all. 10 plants, every one of them growing wild, free, and abundant in the cracks and corners and edges of the ground you walk over every single day. 10 plants that fed and healed and protected families in this county for hundreds of years, long before there was a pharmacy in any town to drive to. And every summer, a whole nation rips them out, sprays them, mows them down, and pays money to kill the very things their great-grandparents would have walked outside to gather with gratitude. There is no money in teaching people that the medicine is free and growing in their own yard. There is a great deal of money in selling them chemicals to kill it and bottles to replace it. So the knowledge faded, passed quietly from grandmother to grandchild in the few families that held on to it, while everyone else declared war on their own backyard pharmacy. You can be the one who remembers. But I want to be honest and careful with you one more time, because the old folks were careful too. Before you eat or use any wild plant, you must be absolutely certain you have identified it correctly. Some plants have lookalikes, and getting it wrong is a serious matter. Learn each plant slowly, from someone or something you trust, one at a time, until you know it the way you know the faces of your own family. That caution is not a weakness. It is exactly how the old folks survived on these plants for generations. Respect the plant, and it will serve you. So here is what I want you to do this week. Walk out into your own yard, slowly. This time, look down at the cracks in the path, the damp corner by the fence, the edges of the garden you usually ignore. See how many of these 10 you can find. I would wager you have at least 4 or 5 within a stone's throw of your back door, and you never knew what you were standing on. Tell me in the comments which of these 10 is already growing in your yard right now. And did your grandmother or your mother gather a wild plant for healing that I did not mention today? There are hundreds of them, and every region has its own. Share the plant, share where you are from, share the story. The old knowledge is exactly the kind of thing that disappears forever when nobody writes it down. I read every single comment. Next time, since we have been talking about the medicine growing wild in your yard, I am going to show you how to harvest, dry, and store these plants properly so that what you gather in summer becomes a full shelf of jars that carries your family through the entire winter. It is the natural next step after today. Until then, walk your yard with new eyes, learn your plants one at a time, and remember that the earth was growing medicine long before anyone thought to put it in a bottle and sell it back to you. That is how the old folks always did it.